Daniel sat at his desk, staring blankly at the computer screen. His life seemed to be on a constant loop: wake up, work, sleep, repeat. Despite achieving what most people would consider success, something inside him felt empty. The promotion he had worked so hard for, the accolades he had received, the financial stability, none of it brought him the happiness he had imagined. Instead, he felt like he was living someone else's dream, trapped in a reality he didn't fully choose. Deep down, Daniel knew there was more to life than this, but he couldn't figure out how to break free from the cycle. He had read countless books, watched motivational videos, and sought advice from friends, but nothing seemed to make a difference. As the days went by, the feeling of being stuck in life only grew stronger. Daniel felt lost, unsure of his next move, and more disconnected from his true self than ever before. As weeks went by, Daniel's frustration grew. He tried to convince himself that his life was fine, but deep down he knew something was missing. He had all the outward markers of success: the title, the money, the respect. But it didn't fill the void inside him. His days were predictable and mechanical. He began to feel like he was going through the motions, existing rather than truly living. The pressure to maintain his success started weighing him down, and the more he achieved, the less satisfied he felt. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was living someone else's dream, one that he had adopted but never truly embraced. He tried to escape by distracting himself with work, but that only made things worse. The harder he worked, the more he felt like he was sinking deeper into a life he didn't want. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't escape the constant nagging feeling that he wasn't living his own life. He was stuck, and the more he tried to break free, the more trapped he became. One day, while Daniel was walking in the park, feeling lost in thought, he met an elderly man sitting on a bench. The old man had a calm presence about him, as though he had lived through everything Daniel was going through. Without saying a word, Daniel sat down next to him. The man, after a few moments of silence, turned to him and said, "You look troubled, young man. What is weighing on your mind?" Surprised by the man's perceptiveness, Daniel shared his frustration. "I've been chasing success all my life, and I've achieved so much, but I still don't feel fulfilled. I don't know what's missing, but I can't shake the feeling that I'm stuck." The old man smiled kindly and said, "Success isn't something you chase, it's something you allow to unfold." Daniel was taken aback. In that simple statement, he realized that he had been going about everything all wrong. He had been looking for something outside of himself instead of looking inward. If you're ready to discover the truth about success and break free from the cycle, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell icon, and stay tuned for more life-changing wisdom. The old man invited Daniel to join him the next morning at his small workshop on the edge of the forest. As they walked through the woods, the man explained, "Nature is full of lessons for those who are willing to listen." They arrived at a clearing where a large rock sat in the middle of a beautiful garden. The man pointed to the rock and said, "This rock represents the obstacles you've been trying to overcome. It's solid, unyielding, and appears immovable. But notice how the plants around it have found a way to grow, even around the rock." Daniel looked closely and saw that the plants had grown around the rock, finding gaps and spaces, using the obstacle as part of their journey, not as a barrier. The rock may block your path, but it doesn't have to stop you. You can either fight it or you can learn to work with it. Daniel stood there, silently absorbing the lesson. For the first time, he realized that success wasn't about avoiding challenges, but about using them as stepping stones to grow. As the days passed, Daniel kept reflecting on the lesson the old man had shared with him. He had spent his life thinking that success meant conquering obstacles, eliminating every challenge that stood in his way. But now, with the image of the plants growing around the rock in his mind, he saw things differently. He realized that the obstacles weren't there to stop him. They were there to help him grow. Every challenge he faced was an opportunity to adapt, learn, and evolve. His frustration, his feelings of being stuck, all stemmed from the belief that success was about reaching the destination without embracing the journey. The truth was, the process of overcoming obstacles was the key to unlocking his true potential. Daniel now understood that success wasn't about avoiding struggles, but about learning to work with them, using them to build strength and resilience. With this new perspective, he began to feel lighter, more at ease with the direction his life was taking. Over the next few weeks, Daniel continued his practice of observing life through the lens of the tree and its roots. He started to see every challenge as an opportunity to grow, to expand beyond his comfort zone. Every time he faced a setback, he remembered the image of the plants bending around the rock, finding their way through the cracks. It was no longer about pushing through with brute force. It was about adapting and learning from the situation. One day, as he sat in his office feeling the weight of a difficult decision, he remembered the lesson from the old man. Instead of stressing over the decision, he allowed himself to take a step back, breathe, and trust the process. The answer came to him not through force, but through quiet reflection. Daniel realized that the more he allowed himself to let go of control and embrace the natural flow of life, the more effortlessly he could make decisions and move forward. Life wasn't about perfection, it was about progress. As the weeks passed, Daniel felt a sense of peace he had never known before. He no longer felt trapped by his desires for success or recognition. The more he allowed himself to flow with life, rather than forcing things to happen, the more he found that opportunities seemed to come to him effortlessly. The world around him hadn't changed, but his perspective had. He no longer felt weighed down by the pressure to prove himself. Instead, he began to enjoy the process of growth. Daniel realized that the key to unlocking his full potential wasn't in striving for perfection or in competing with others. It was in trusting himself and the journey. Success, he learned, wasn't about the destination. It was about becoming the person who could enjoy the journey and all the lessons along the way. He began to embrace every challenge as an opportunity to grow, knowing that his path was unfolding exactly as it should. As Daniel stood at the edge of the forest, looking back at his journey, he felt a deep sense of gratitude. His life had completely transformed, not because he had achieved some grand goal, but because he had learned to embrace the process of growth. He realized that the challenges, the obstacles, and the setbacks were all part of the journey that had shaped him into who he was now. His mind was clear, his heart light, and his spirit at peace. For the first time in years, he felt connected to himself, to his purpose. Daniel understood that life wasn't about reaching a destination. It was about the person you became along the way. As he walked down the path, with the sun setting in the distance, he couldn't help but smile. And with a deep breath, he asked himself, what if the only thing standing between you and your true happiness is your own fear of letting go?